Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be looking at the F4U-1A Corsair, an American Tier 2 fighter with a BR of 3.0. Now this plane is a wonderful plane, it is amazing to fly, so let's look at the customization. Unfortunately, it only really has this skin, there are no others in the game at the moment, but I have created a user template which is quite nice. I mean, it's very much minimalistic. I've changed obviously the badges and the camouflage, but it's a nice plane. I mean, I love the wings. The wings are always nice, very much like the Japanese planes. Comparing it to a lot of the American fighters are around this BR, and I am on realistic mode right now, so just checking the BRs with everything. You have the Hellcat, which has exactly the same BR, but the F4U is better than. Obviously the P38G, everybody's love child at the moment at 3.3, but I prefer this one because of the matchmaking. The P400 if you like a cannon, but who needs a cannon when you have 6 of these wonderful 50 cals? And then you have obviously stuff like the new and included USMC F4U-1A, basically the naval variant, which you're basically just paying for a skin. It's basically exactly the same plane, so you could say that this review is going to be covering both of them. Now looking at performance, with all the upgrades, it has a decent rate of climb and a very good turn time. And the one thing you want to watch out for is the max speed. The max speed is amazing in this thing, and to be honest, this table of contents completely lies, and I will prove that to you later on in this video. But anyway, at its BR, it's very, very competitive with most of the nations. I mean, you're going to be coming up against A1s, which are decent, but you can easily take them out, and then you're going to come up against stuff like LA5s, even MiG-3s if you're lucky, and Yak-1Bs, so they're easy to take out. And then, at a BR of 3.0, the British really only have the Spitfire Mark II-B, which, if flown correctly, the Corsair can easily dominate. And then, the Japanese with the Ki-61s, and then the A6M2, they can easily beat, as long as flown correctly. And in this video I will be going through how to fly this thing correctly. So anyway, let's get into some arcade battles. So here we go. I only have one arcade battle for you today, but it is super long because this plane is amazing. It's one of those planes where it doesn't matter what you fly it in arcade, in realistic, in simulator, you're going to do well in it as long as you fly it right. And basically by flying it right, it is so simple, which is why I think it's a great beginner aircraft to learn how to boom and zoom with those later Americans such as the Mustangs, even the P38G. All you really have to do is climb, make sure your speed's at least over about 300 when you're diving, and basically you're set. Like, there is not many aircraft that I would say at this BR stand up to this thing when it's flown correctly. If you decide to turn fight in it, even in arcade, of course you're not going to do well, because this isn't a turn fighter. It is a boom and zoom through and through. So get altitude, get speed in a dive, make sure you use that fantastic roll to your advantage, and just play it like that. Now, I would say this aircraft is kind of like the German Bf109E1, where a lot of people underrate it because it doesn't have tons of firepower, and by that I mean it doesn't have any cannons. Like, I've seen a lot of people prefer the P38G and prefer the P400 because it has those cannons, it has the 20mm. But I would say this thing does not need the 20mm. Its 650 cals are easily good enough to take out anything you're going to be coming up against at this BR. Even big heavy bombers, I mean, I'm taking this guy out, and he poses absolutely no threat to me, and the only reason I'm going after this guy is because I climbed and nobody else did on my team. You've got to climb. That's something I have to stress, no matter what you're playing in arcade and realistic. In arcade you can get away with it if other people don't climb with you, but in realistic you have to climb. And the thing is now, I'm in a position where I'm miles above everybody else because the climb rate on this thing is absolutely stupendous when you use WEP. And as long as you're aware of your surroundings, as long as nobody is on your ass, then you're going to do well. It's as simple as that. Now, as you can see, I've already picked off an IL-4. There's a Hurricane Mark II on fire. He's basically dead. And it hasn't taken me a lot of shots, which shows that you don't need cannons. This thing has 6 50 cals. That is easily good enough on Convergence to easily take out stuff. You just saw me rip an IL-4's wing off with these 50 cals. So do not think that you need cannons in arcade mode. A lot of people say that the Yak 9Ts and the Yak 9Ks reign supreme because of their huge caliber guns. I completely disagree. Because it's planes like this which show that in arcade you can do well without them. You don't need stuff like that. Maybe if you're going after bombers all the time, yeah, maybe. But the thing is, because of this aircraft's supreme climb rate and supreme dive speed and everything like that, it's not hard to go after bombers, especially at this level. And as you can see, I make sure to go really fast. And if there's nobody really behind me, it's time to climb again. You want to pick off fighters. You never really want to go to the death ball. And if you do go on the death ball, you will see later on in this arcade battle that what you do is you dive in, and instead of climbing straight away, you dive down to sea level, run away a bit, because you'll be going over 800 kilometers an hour. And then, when you're away from that death ball, or that mosh pit, you basically climb again. It's not hard to fly this thing. It is a great aircraft for people who want to learn how to boom and zoom, or maybe they're new to realistic and they want to basically learn how to fly in a realistic battle. But you can do the same thing in arcade. Now the reason I went after this guy, even though he's on fire, he's not dead. He can still do damage, and that's why. And unfortunately, that guy runs straight in front of my fire. I'm sorry to that Hurricane. I'd probably say it's my fault. Maybe I could have reacted in time, but you know, I do say sorry, but I just want to say a public apology to that guy who decided to walk in front of my fire, even if it wasn't my fault. But as you can see, I don't climb straight away. I wait to check my surroundings. If nobody's around me, then I can climb again. The only time a Corsair is vulnerable is in the climb. So you've just got to make sure that you don't climb near the enemy. I mean, it's not tough. It basically, this plane explains to you how to look around your surroundings to make sure you're in the right place and you don't do anything stupid. How not to turn fight, because if you turn fight in this thing, I'm sorry, you shouldn't install War Thunder. And how to properly boom and zoom. There's a lot of players who I see who are asking how to boom and zoom in this game. And I always say, either fly this, or fly something like a P-38G, and you will learn how to do it. Everything in War Thunder is done by experience. Every time you go out and fly, you are better than you were beforehand, because you have more experience. You have more experience of the matches, you have more experience of how players are going to react to situations. And even in a climb, I can get up above the clouds very easily, even hitting critical speed. Critical speed on this thing is very, very, very low. You can push this thing until it gets to about 10 kilometers an hour, and then it will go down. So climbing is really not an issue. I don't believe in the stats on the stats card saying it only climbs at 12 point something meters per second. That is not true at all, even in realistic, because you have WEP. WEP really helps you out. And as you can see, basically all I'm doing is climbing, going back down, hitting some guys, maybe not getting kills, but at least hitting them and then getting out of there. And there is a lot of planes where you can't do this. You can't go into that mosh pit and then easily get out again. Even other boom and zoomers like the Typhoon, because there is always a Spitfire or always a Zero who can turn on you so fast that you can't get away in time. But in the Corsair, if you do it correctly, there is not going to be any Zero or any Spitfire which is going to be able to turn and face a guy who's going at 800 kilometers an hour or even 600 kilometers an hour and be able to hit them in time. It is a wonderfully nice plane to fly, and the fact that at high speeds the roll rate gets absolutely amazing means that if you're going after people who are turning, then you can still hit them, because you can roll really fast. You can basically roll at the same speed as they turn, even big planes like Spitfires. As you can see, that guy was turning right there, and I was still able to get some shots. I look around my surroundings, make sure nobody's trying to shoot me, except that guy. He doesn't get any hits because I'm going so fast. And you've got to make sure you go towards your base, obviously. I mean, I think that's a given fact. If you decide to dive down and then go towards the enemy base, just don't do that. And also it gives you the opportunity, because you like, what's the word? You keep a lot of your energy in the dive, even if you turn. So going after other people is easy to do in this thing. Like, as you can see there, I came out of a dive, looked around where everything was, there was a Heinkel, so I decided to stay down and use the speed that I'd gained in the dive to go after him, and I can still climb at a very good rate with a very high speed, because this thing retains energy like a boss. And there is no downside to this plane in arcade. The only downside is maybe if you decide to turn fight. Now, later on in this video, there is actually a Corsair who decides to do that, and I teach him a good lesson. I think it was needed to be taught. You don't do that in the Corsair. And I think that's where I was going wrong with it. It is a plane that you have to understand how to fly before you go into it, because when I started using the Corsairs, I didn't use their capabilities. I always thought, well, people can outclimb me, people can always outdive me, and people can always be better than me in every way, so I don't really see the point in the plane. But now, after flying it, even like post 1.39, they must have fixed it in some way, or maybe I just wasn't using it right. It shows that you can use this thing in any way. It controls so well, it is so smooth, and it has enough firepower to easily take people out on a pass. Now, with the comparison to the BF-109 E1, the E1 only has 3 machine guns, so you will get a lot of assists. The good thing about the Corsair is it has 6. It has 6 50 cals, so you won't get as many assists, so it's actually easier to get kills. And it seems like the 50 cals, especially for the Americans, are doing really well at the moment for me. So that might just be me, or they might have been changed, I don't know. But you have to use it in the way that I'm showing you here. If you don't use it in this way, then there are a lot of fighters who can outturn you. There are a lot of fighters who can go faster than you in a straight line. Because basically this thing was used in the war to combat Zeros, and it did a great job at it, and in this way. They weren't able to outturn Zeros, so what did they do? They did this. And in the game it simulated great. Even in arcade battle, it simulated how it should be. And because you have that great rate of climb, you can use that to go after bombers if you want. I mean, unfortunately in this match not many people went high. Then I may have had a few problems, but I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have had that many problems, because you can either just ignore them and dive away from them because you can outdive them, especially if it's a Spitfire or something like that. Or you could just concentrate on the bombers who stay high. I mean, you saw how it took out that IL-4. It was easy. And once again, just going into the mosh pit, trying to get some hits, diving away, using that energy to run away, and then climb once again. This is literally rinse and repeat, and this is how you learn how to boom and zoom. You learn angles. You learn how to approach people. You always have to think 10 seconds ahead of where that enemy fighter will be. If you don't think like that and you aim straight at him, then you're going to miss him every time in a boom and zoom fight. You have to make sure that when you're targeting an enemy, you can see where he's going. You can see where he's turning, and by the way, look at this. This is Arcade 101. It's about 6 fighters on one guy. And here is that dreaded Corsair. He is bringing shame to the family of Corsairs. So what do we have to do? We have to put him down. I mean, I don't know what he's doing. Like, he obviously doesn't properly know how to use it, but there we go. And even being close... There's been a lot of instances in this map where you can see I get very close to the ground. But the thing is, because the elevators on this thing is so good at high speed, you can afford to do that. There is some planes, like the Yak 1Bs, and, well, the Yak series, and the LA5s, where the elevator is awful, especially in arcade. But in this thing, the elevator is great, so you can zoom down, and can I finish this guy off? I believe he's basically dead. You can zoom down and pull up even when you're really close to the water. So you can retain energy, you can keep up your speed, and you can climb again. I mean, you can basically go and dive from 4,500 meters, hit the deck, turn around, and go at a 90-degree angle vertically, and get back up to about 4,000, maybe 4,200 meters. And that, to me, is absolutely amazing. Because that basically means this thing isn't losing any energy. I mean, it's losing a bit, but compared to other planes, like, for me, the Thunderbolt loses so much energy when you boom and zoom, so you have to think about maneuvers and stuff like that. In the Corsair, you don't really have to. All you do is get some shots, get back up, and rinse and repeat. I mean, this is arcade, where boom and zoom is obviously, supposedly, not as effective as realistic, but here is a video showing that boom and zoom is so good in arcade if used correctly, because there aren't many people who fly high. And you've got to use that to your advantage. You basically have to be the sniper, the guy who is surveying the battlefield, looking for that kill to go after. Which isn't hard to do when you're in something like the Corsair. Now, if you engage somebody on level flight and you're not going, I'd say maybe above 350, maybe 400, then you are going to struggle. So don't do it. Just don't do it. You can dive away from them. There aren't many planes, except maybe the Americans like the P-38G, maybe the Airacobra, even stuff like the King Cobra, if you're unfortunate to come up against it. They could probably zoom you. They probably could outdive you. So against planes like that, you're going to struggle. But the thing is, they're all higher BR. I'm focusing here on planes which are around this BR of 3.0. And to be honest, there is really nothing that can contend with it. And not many people seem to know about it. It seems to be a hidden gem in this game of War Thunder. Everybody is talking about the P-38G at the moment because it's basically been fixed. And it is good. And it's hard to attack as the Japanese and realistic. But this thing, it's as good, if not even better, than the P-38, because the P-38 has problems. Its engine's set on fire like wildfires. They seem to be made out of dynamite. This thing doesn't have that problem. If you take some damage, you can still go hard. I've never had my engine knocked out on this thing, and to be honest, I never get shot in this thing. Unless, in arcade, I mean, obviously. In realistic, it's a different matter. But in arcade, you don't really need teamwork, which is really weird. It's one of those planes that you don't need teamwork for. It's better to be alone, because if you're alone, people disregard you as a threat. Like, this guy probably doesn't even see me coming because he's worried about what's in front of him. He's probably tunnel visioning, just like most of the guys on this team at the moment. So basically what I can do is I can pick and choose what I want to fight, which is great. But if my team decided to climb with me, then their team would obviously want to come after me, and that guy just wouldn't die. Took a lot of shots, but still, with these MGs, as you've seen, they can tear people apart as long as you aim in the right places. A lot of the times when I'm flying this thing at high speeds, I aim for stuff like engines and pilots, and maybe tails if I can't get to their pilots. But there's no real point in going for wings or fuselage or anything like that. Engines are always a good deal when you're going against twin-engine stuff or bombers, but still, it shows how good this thing is, that you can pick and choose your targets, because that roll rate is so good, because that turn is so good at high speeds. You can basically, even on a single aircraft, choose where you want to hit it. You can be so accurate, and when you have 6 MGs shooting on convergence at an engine, that thing's going to explode faster than a bonfire. Like, it's absolutely amazing. And all I've done this map is climb high, dive on an unsuspecting enemy, take him out, watch his friends go, oh god, where did Jerry go? And then just disappear again. Now obviously there are going to be some bombers up here and stuff like that, but it's easy to take them out. It's fine to take them out. You can easily do it. You have the rate of climb. In other planes that I've tried to use in this way, you don't really have the rate of climb, such as the Thunderbolt, and this guy spotted me and dived straight away. But he's in a Stuka, and I am in a Corsair. I wonder who's going to outdive it. I love it how he's in a dive bomber, and I'm easily able to catch up with him. And obviously, the Stuka is not made out of tough stuff, so it's easy to take out. Especially when he dives up and I'm going so fast. But I suppose one criticism you could say about this plane in arcade is you do have to be more wary of what's going on. Like, you can't just dive on people and then try and get out of there, because you might dive into a huge pack of people, and then it all basically just gets screwed over. Because you have to pick and choose so well that a lot of the times what I do is I go after the aircraft which I deem the most of a threat to me. So the ones which can turn more, the ones which can come after me when I'm zooming away. And you've also got to make sure that when you go after people, they're not surrounded by tons of guys, and other people are not paying attention to you. And by that what I mean is you look around, and you basically see that they're not looking in your general direction. I mean, I know a lot of players in arcade get tunnel vision, and by the way, I took out that P-38G for obvious reasons. It's one of the planes that can easily take me out. But right now, basically my whole team is dead, except me. And I haven't died once in this thing. And the enemy, they're all basically focusing on me right now, and they still can't kill me. They get some shots, of course. The Spitfire with its 7.7s. The American Steel does not care about your 7.7s, but I'm still getting away from him. I'm still climbing away, and he's not going to do a lot of damage to me. And basically, he's going to run out of energy before I do. So there we go. Do a hammerhead. See where we can get to. The Spitfire is obviously in some real trouble right now, and he's trying to point his nose up to kill me, but that's not going to work. And there's another one down. But the thing is, basically, I, at the moment, was the only real person alive on my team right now, so we've lost this match. I mean, the Corsair can't really influence a match that much. I mean, I got a lot of kills in this and got a lot of assists, but you can't really go for ground targets or anything like that. It's just the way of a good fighter. A good fighter is there to fight. It's not there to bomb or attack. So you've got to use it in that way, and you can see the enemy is still trying to hit me. They are hitting me a little bit, but if that game had gone on for another 10 seconds, I'd say I would be dead. But that's because the whole team was going after me right there. And it just shows, even with 7 or 8 players on you, you can still get away, as long as the guys don't really know how to use their planes. I mean, all they could have done is just climb to my level and take me out, but they decided not to. And this was, by the way, the first arcade game I've played in the Corsair post 1.39. So it's not as if I had a ton of practice playing this game. That just shows the Corsair is a beast when it comes to arcade, when flown correctly. It has to be flown correctly. If you decide not to fly it, like I've just done here, you will not do well. The F4U-1A I'm talking about. The later Corsairs we'll get into in another video when I do a review on them. But at this battle rating, if you fly it properly like a boom and zoom fighter, you will do so incredibly well, it will just blow your mind. But anyway, let's get on to some live commentary. Hello ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the live commentary part of this review for the Corsair, and today I have Sharplight with me, who I've got to credit to showing me this plane and the potential it had, because I flew it before 1.39 and thought it was, well, a bag of dicks, to be honest. and now it's not bad. So, how did you find this hidden gem?
Well, I'm obsessed about mastering every plane, because there's an achievement for it, of course, and so I just went to the Marine Corps version of this one, which is exactly the same. There's no difference between it.
Yeah, you're basically researching a skin.
Not a skin. The plane itself, the new plane in 1.39.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like the same plane, but it looks a bit different because it has the naval stuff on
yeah, that's exactly. Like, there's no difference except how they look. And so I was just, they added it, and so I was just playing it for to unlock it because I had previously I had everything at that tier, so unlocked,
Yeah.
and then I discovered that with the new battle rating is really a good plane. I knew it was a good plane, but at this battle rating is even better. So that's
And it's weird because at this battle rating for the Americans, there's tons of choice. Like, there's obviously the P-38G at 3.3 that people are loving at the moment. Then you got stuff like the Aerocobra, the Kitty Hawk, even the Hellcat. Like, there's so much to choose from, and they're all not bad.
yes. I remember I remember in the old ratings it was like 5 and 6, and at 5 you have nothing. It was like only the Kitty Hawk, and then at 6
Yeah.
you get like 3, and then at 7 you get a lot, and some reason like the most performance the Americans fall in this battle rating. But I think it's they like the P-38 should go up. I think, and then
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean,
Or,
it's not overperforming, it's just good at the moment.
yeah. So and this one is also this battle rating is too low for it. I guess it's because most players don't know how to play it, or they try to play it like a turn and burn plane, and
Yeah.
so most average result with it is low. So statistically, it fits on this. But if you just use it normally, even if you aren't a very good player, you're gonna get great results with it. So it's
Yeah, I mean, even a stock aircraft, it's as long as you use it right, as long as you don't try and turn fight, obviously.
yeah.
Whoa, what's going on? Oh, I was climbing too fast. Okay.
All right.
I can't tell in these clouds.
Yeah, go to the virtual HUD.
The angles, yeah. Yeah, I've a thing about this plane in realistic, like I've wept it to death and I've never overheated, and I'm not even sure if you can at the moment.
I think you can, but usually
It takes a very long time.
yeah, but usually I just cut the throttle when I dive, so the engine cools down. It's not an issue. So
And in 5 minutes, we're up to 4,000 meters,
yeah,
and we could have pushed it harder, to be honest.
it's a really good plane.
Yeah.
And I even like how it looks, and I like the machine guns. Some people, like they're obsessed with big.
The cannons.
Yeah, they want the biggest caliber for some reason. I just love. I'm more like I agree with the American Air Force Corps. Like their decision to standardize with 50 calibers. I think
Yeah.
it's a very great way of arming planes with 50 caliber, because it gives you have a lot of ammo, and you can still do some damage with it. I mean, at convergence you can do a lot of damage. So
Yeah.
it like solves it covers both the requirement of damage and ammo capacity. So
It basically means they could be a bit more lenient when shooting. I mean, I know I've read a lot of stories about Spitfire pilots flying stuff like the Mark IIB, where basically they were kind of afraid to shoot their cannons because they didn't want to waste them, so they would only use them if basically the person they were attacking was completely dead in their sights and couldn't get away.
yeah, and
Like, they would use their machine guns to basically attack the guy, and then when to finish him off, they would use their 20 millimeters.
yeah, and that's the way you have to play like the Aerocobra, and
Yeah.
to some extent the King Cobra also. Although the King Cobra, the A10 has a little bit more 37 ammo, but
Should we descend a bit?
yeah, we have. But
It looks like the Russians decided not to climb.
there was a Thunderbolt, a premium Thunderbolt. Yeah,
Oh, is there?
yeah, I saw it and then he disappeared. Oh, he's going after the mosquito, the spotter.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing that impresses me the most about this airplane in realistic is how it handles high speeds. Like, the roll is amazing, and when you're on somebody, and there's a lot of planes that lock up. And with the Corsair, I've never had that problem.
This could be a flight model issue. I'm not sure.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm
Because I'm pretty sure it would never not do that.
yeah. So like some planes still haven't they haven't implemented that for some planes, and that gives an advantage to the plane until the implementation. So, but for me, it's more the battle rating that is the problem. I mean, it's really overperforming if you fly it correctly. Of course, if you just go low and try to turn fight, you're not going to get any performance out of it. But
no.
So I'm not sure why they're doing that. They should really enforce a battle rating that suits the plane, not the pilot, because most pilots.
Well, that's the problem with the player efficiency system, right? I mean, it all depends on how good the pilot is.
Yeah.
And if, like, we seen, like, in the latest updates, like, a lot of Russian planes have been lowered in battle rating.
Yeah. Because
people think Russian planes are easy to fly. So, I wouldn't say worst players, but people who, they basically go for Russians first.
Yeah.
Like, as a plane choice. Because they are told they are better,
also,
even though they're
not. Planes with battle rating of 2 and 2.2 and 2.7, where like most beginner player would use them. Like,
where's that P-47 gone, by the way?
I don't know. This one turns up.
Oh, he's down on the ground, so we're fine. But anyway, keep going.
So, like, low tier planes are gonna be flown by new players by definition. So
yeah.
So the efficiency will always be a problem because you're gonna have like new players just flying planes for the first time. Like.
Boom, baby.
Nice.
And I just love the fact after diving you can go into like a 90-degree like upwards. Yeah. This thing, it's just wonderful to fly.
Yeah, it's like a really strong, really a beast, And
as long as you're going over, I'd say about 250 kilometers an hour, it's so smooth.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you really have to be high speed, high energy plane.
Yeah. It is definitely an energy fighter. Like, even in arcade. Like, if you try and turn fight in this thing, you're not going to do well. Like, it's not like some other American planes where you might be able to. This thing, it is a born out-and-out energy fighter. Nice one. And going at its max speed, according to the data, I was easy to pull out of that at 10 Gs. I've pulled 14 Gs in this thing. I mean, there's something really wrong with this when it comes to diving.
All right, then.
Because
a Focke-Wulf and a BF-109 here.
Yeah, I see them.
All right.
They're going away from us, though.
Yeah.
Oh, they're the last two players.
Yeah.
Okay.
What the nice thing, maybe you can try it, is go vertical, like 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And the plane will stay upright until like 90 kilometers an hour or something.
Okay, I'll try it now.
It will not lose its nose.
All right, so 70, 80, 90. And there we go. So we're at 50, 40, 30 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 0 kilometers, and then it turns down.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
So
this thing is definitely under-tiered.
Yeah.
Or under-battle rated, I suppose.
Yeah, like, imagine you're in a 0 and you go against this, like in real life. But
yeah,
they used to pull this trick where they go vertical, and then the 0 would just fall, and they do a hammerhead and go after the 0. And
yeah,
the 0's never had a chance after, 42, 43.
So I'm guessing they're going back to base.
I don't know.
It is us two versus those two.
They disappeared. One of them was climbing, actually.
Oh, okay.
And then they disappeared. So I'm climbing. I'm not going down below the clubs.
Yeah. But a lot of times when like we squad up and we're playing planes, such like the Zero and the I-185, it's not relaxing playing. Like you have to be on the ball all the time.
Yeah.
But because of this thing and its insane speed in a dive and its climb rate and the amount of even ammo it has, like it's actually really relaxing.
Yeah.
Just to fly about.
Yeah, it's like I don't know why. It's like after 1.39 was released, everyone was playing the P-38 because they heard it's overperforming, not because they themselves they don't know how.
Yeah, they hadn't tried it.
Yeah,
of course.
and like I've played the P-38 a lot and before 1.39, so
yeah,
like, but. For me, it's really after 1.39. This is the plane that everyone should be playing. This is really nice plane, and
it's definitely a hidden gem.
Yeah, and you have two of them, so
yeah.
So
yeah, they've even given you an extra one.
You have two of them.
I'm worried about the F.
I'm worried about the AA.
Ah, that too. Should we just wait until they leave, or? So I think this Fokker Wolf's going in for a landing.
Really?
Yeah.
Ruin his day then.
He will rue the day that he met the Corsair.
I'll follow you and make sure the BF-09 is not.
Here he comes. Do. And because he's pulled up, I can just let him hang there. He can turn, but good for him, it doesn't matter because I'm going so much faster than him. And because there's two of us, I'd say the one thing you've really got to understand in this plane is that it has to be used kind of like in a team way. Like, if nobody else climbs with you, and you're the only one climbing, you're going to struggle. So you have to kind of hope that your teammates help you out a little bit. It's not a plane... Oh, come on, get some hits. It's not a plane that you can just fly solo and do well in. You can't carry a team by yourself.
Why is that? Tell us why.
Because, let's say we're against Germany right now, okay? And there are certain planes, like, I'd say like the P-38G, at the moment. If other people climb, the BF-109F's coming in, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's just get out of here.
I'm going to try to finish him off.
Oh, okay. There, he's coming after me. But basically, like, if their team starts climbing, and you're the only one up there because everybody else has decided not to climb,
yeah,
then you're gonna struggle.
Yeah.
Like, there's no two ways about it.
Yeah. Well.
And as you can see, I can get away from this guy.
Yeah.
This guy has no chance. He can't catch me in a dive. He can't catch me in a straight. He can't catch me in a climb. Did you finish off that guy, by the way?
No, I got some hits on him.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it's not a plane that can carry the team because it doesn't have tons of firepower.
Exactly.
And I mean, you can pick a team apart like really well, like we're doing right now. But you have to be skilled to fly it because you don't have a ton of guns like other planes do. Do you need help or?
No.
Okay, we've won anyway.
Oh.
And even if we hadn't won by tickets, I'm pretty sure we had those guys in our sights.
Yeah, we still had
we could have easily taken them.
Team players.
And the thing is, that game was so relaxing. It was so chilled. Like, it's just amazing to me how nice this plane is. Like, just to fly and just to do well in. I mean, it's not a plane that takes a lot of skill to do well in, but to do great in it, it takes a hell of a lot of skill.
Yes.
And I think that's what I would say.
Yes, exactly.
And I got Balancer, so we were out BR'd in that match, or out tiered.
Well, Balancer is a tricky one because he could be only like one battle rating, or even the same battle rating, but like.
Well, was that an A1 or an A5?
No, an A1 would be the same tier 2. It must have been A5.
So Yeah, so the A5, that's 4.3.
Yeah, and I killed the
We weren't struggling with it.
Thunderbolt. So a Thunderbolt is tier 3. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So, after that very relaxing and soothing game, on to the realistic battles. So before we get into the realistic battle, I decided to take this thing out in a test flight in realistic, and basically climb to a decent height, and then be able to dive and see how far I could push it. Also, I wept for maybe 20 minutes, just to see if I could push it, and just to see how hard I could push it, and its engine didn't overheat. And as we can see in a dive, I get up to about, let's see, 130 kilometers an hour. Pull 13 Gs and go straight back up again. So basically, I think that solidifies the fact that this is definitely a boom and zoom fighter, especially because at high speeds, it rolls so well. It rolls very well at high speeds. And in the climb, I basically get back up to where I came from. So getting out of those situations that you get yourself in is so easy. So there you go. That's kind of ridiculous in a way, but I suppose it makes sense. I mean, I don't know. Either this aircraft is broken or it can fly at the speeds of jets. I mean, I know the Focke-Wulf 190A5 can't get pushed that far, but what do I know? And then I decided to test out the combat flaps to see when they would break off. And they break off around 570, which is alright. I mean, it's less than its supposed max speed on this thing. But they haven't broken off all yet. They seem to break off in fashion. And this plane actually looks really nice without its flaps. But yeah, it's quite interesting. But anyway, let's see how hard you have to push this thing to make it break its wings. So let's see how fast you have to go to break this thing's wings. Now, I basically did exactly the same thing, climbed up to 4,500 in a different test flight to give me about the same fuel as I did before, go into a vertical 90-degree dive and see where it took us. Last time, obviously, getting up to 830 is crazy when this thing is supposed to have a max speed of 670. And I was actually kind of worried at this point that we wouldn't be able to break our wings because we didn't have enough altitude. But at about 880, this thing redlines, and then trying to pull up at about 900 kilometers an hour, this thing breaks its wings. So, as long as you don't go jet speed, you should be okay in this thing. It's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely an amazing boom and zoom American fighter. But anyway, after that, let's get into some realistic battle gameplay. Now, once again, I only have one game for you, but it is a long one, because it's very tough to get shot down in this thing. And also, I'm going to be reading an article which is from themilitaryfactory.com on the Vought F4U-1, or, well, the Vought F4U Corsair, sorry. But first of all, let's get into some stuff in realistic. You need to climb in this thing. There's no doubt about that. Climbing, you have to do, because it's the same as arcade. If you don't climb to a decent level, and people outclimb you, or you meet people on the same level, you are going to struggle. And that's because this thing isn't great at low speeds, and isn't great in a turn fight. So you always want to make sure you have the altitude and energy advantage over your opponent. Now, we just saw in the live commentary against the Germans, we had that. And now we face the British on Hokkaido, sorry, oh my god. One of the maps that I detest, but it's still a good map for the F4U. And it seems like, because you have a lot of planes at this BR, or at least around this BR for the Americans, the F4U-1A gets really good matchmaking. Because a lot of the planes that a lot of Americans come up against, such as the P-38G, the Kitty Hawk and stuff like that, they're around this BR, but they're lower than it, because not many nations have a lot of planes around the BR of 3.0. They have a few, but then you have to look at bombers, and you either get screwed, where, like in the live commentary, we came up against a Focke-Wulf 190A5, or you come up against stuff like Hurricane Mark IIs and Beaufighters and stuff like that. Like, it's a very hit and miss kind of thing, and as you can see in the chat, I'm trying to sort out teamwork here. We need to climb. I'm asking them to climb because otherwise we're going to lose this. We have two Hellcats who really want to take out ground targets, and I have no idea why, because they're basically signing their death warrant. You're coming up against British fighters. You're in a Hellcat. You can't outturn them. Why have you taken rockets? Why are you deciding to go after AA? Isn't this crazy? I don't know. Like, maybe it's just me, but I would never do that. But luckily, the good old Kitty Hawk on my team, who, thank you to him, by the way. He was very nice, and I look forward to playing with him in the future, because he was a decent pilot, and he gave me support, and that's what you need in this thing. If you're not squadded up, and you don't use teamwork, it doesn't matter how good of a plane you have in realistic, you are going to lose, or you're at least going to suffer if the enemy team is playing well. But anyway, let's get into this article. It's quite long, but it's a good one. So, it's called the Vought F4U Corsair, the carrier-based fighter/fighter bomber/night fighter from 1942. The fast and powerful Vought F4U Corsair fighter was the first Allied aircraft capable of going toe-to-toe with the fabled Japanese Zero. So that's already a great commendation to this wonderful plane. And here we go into the article. One of the greatest fighter aircraft of all time, the American Vought F4U Corsair became the stuff of legend in its time aloft during World War II, 1939 to 1945, the Korean War, 1950 to 1953, and several French-related Cold War conflicts that followed. The design was attributed to Igor Sikorsky and Rex Basel, and went on to see production totals of 12,571 units, with manufacturing ending in 1952. So this plane, there was a lot of them made, and over a 10-year period, showing how good it was. And this is obviously all the variants of the Corsair, not just the 1A. The 1A was one of the first ones. It's not a bad total, considering the aircraft was initially rejected by the United States Navy. The F4U originally arrived as a USN career-based fighter design until difficulties in landing the aircraft on moving carrier decks led to its expanded use as a land-based fighter in the hands of US Marine aviators. While the United States Navy moved on to the equally excellent Grumman F6F Hellcats, the F4U continued to make a name for itself in the Pacific theater, even earning the respect of its Japanese foes as one of the most feared combat aircraft in the region. And that's quite hard to do. The Japanese pilots were made of tough steel. They were very much known for not really fearing anything, not even death itself. So the fact that they feared this aircraft is quite amazing. But anyway, back to the battle. As you can see, there is a guy who is below me, and luckily he is below me. I'm still trying to climb away from him using WEP. It seems like it doesn't matter how far you WEP, you will always never hurt your engine, basically. And I'm basically leading this guy off so the Kitty Hawk can engage him. You see how teamwork is valuable in this thing? Because now that fighter is worried about the Kitty Hawk, and that means I can swing in and attack him. And this is basically how you have to use the F4U. And obviously I get some hits in, don't crit him, but he isn't able to shoot me because he's in two minds here. He's worrying about the Kitty Hawk, and he's worrying about this massive, powerful fighter coming in at high speeds, and I can easily get away before he attacks me. It's kind of like the Focke-Wulf in that way, where it's very much you hit and get out of there. And because you have enough energy retention and speed, you can easily get out of there. I mean, that guy didn't have a chance. And he turns once again, which is fine. I mean, he gets some shots on me, but I basically take out his engine, or at least I don't crit anything, but he is heavily damaged now. And in a Spitfire, which relies on not being damaged and basically being good at turning and stuff like that, and if you even get pink or red wings, the Corsair has beaten you. So you have to keep your... Basically, you don't have to get hit when you're flying stuff like this. In the Corsair, if you get hit a few times, it doesn't really matter. It seems like the engine doesn't get knocked out as easy as stuff like the Thunderbolt or the P-30. It doesn't suffer from fires like the P-38G. It seems to do well. But anyway, after killing that guy successfully, it's time to get back to this article. The Corsair was born from a 1938 USN requirement calling for a new high-performance carrier fighter, and chance Vought of United Aircraft returned with their V166 model. Vought engineers handed their design the then largest possible engine the compact airframe could handle, the experimental Pratt & Whitney XR2800 double Wasp of 2,000 horsepower. To this was added an equally massive three-bladed propeller assembly, and the inverted gull-wing arrangement was chosen to help the spinning propeller blades clear the ground and full-length main landing gear legs to be used. So that's like how the wings aren't as straight, they're kind of buckled, they have an angle in them, that's basically what that's talking about. And then the engine was conventionally fitted at the front with the single-seat cockpit at amidships. The main wing appendages were seated ahead of centre, while the fuselage was tubular in its general shape. The empennage consisted of a single, short, curved vertical tail fin with low-set horizontal planes. The undercarriage was of the traditional tail dragger arrangement and wholly retractable, which is quite amazing. I mean, that's talking about the wheel in the back. The fact that the whole thing was easily retractable in 1938 was quite impressive. Original armament included four .5 Browning heavy machine guns. That's basically 50 cals. Sorry about that. Despite the inherent strong points in the F4U design, the aircraft held an obstructed forward view due to the wing's location and long nose, and reduced visibility to the rear due to the raised fuselage spine. Pilots commented on the difficulties of cockpit access because of the unique wing bend. Well, fair enough. I suppose if you're in trouble trying to get into the cockpit, it's not the easiest to get into, but a lot of warfare in the Pacific wasn't really down to scrambling like it was in the Battle of Britain. But as you can see, this guy is basically screwed. I'm able to roll with the same... I'm basically able to roll with him and not, unfortunately, hit him because I didn't predict exactly... I didn't think he would basically go in a 360, but the thing is, he does have a friend. But look, I can zoom away. There is no way that these two are going to catch me. And unfortunately, at this point, we have basically lost. I mean, our team, if the Hellcats didn't climb, so we were basically done for, because all it takes is a few Spitfires to easily take out Hellcats at low speed, especially when they're carrying rockets, because their turn time is increased. So, we basically lost. Unfortunately, my Kitty Hawk friend does get stuck, but, you know, I mean, I tried to save him, but I wasn't able to get there in time. I zoomed too fast, but the thing is, coming in, I have a ton of speed. I'm able to get some hits, and then once again, get out of there. Now, maybe if I had a few cannons, that would have been better, but there is a variant of the Corsair with 4 cannons. So, if you want to do that, unlock that and go play that. But at this tier, the F4U-1A, with its 6 machine guns, I think is completely fine. But anyway, back to the article as this game goes on. We are heavily losing, as you can see. Vought produced 2 prototype aircraft, the V166A and V166B, to which V166A received the Pratt & Whitney R1830 Twin Wasp engine, while V166B was given the Pratt & Whitney R2800-2 Double Wasp engine. The OSN favoured the B model prototype and placed its contract within months of Vaught's submission. In development, the aircraft would be known as F4U-1. So that was basically the prototypes. Obviously, the Americans being Americans, they preferred the more powerful engine. But back to the battle, as you can see, even though I'm on my own, even though most of my team members are dead, or at least maybe all of them are dead, these guys can't touch me, because I have the speed advantage. They're trying to climb to me. I'm not going to go into a head-to-head, I'm not that stupid. And I've hurt them, so they need to get back to base and repair. And right now, they can't do anything of the sort. And one of the main problems I also have is there's a ton of AI after me, so I need to take them out as well. I know it's frowned upon. Maybe I should have gone after the enemy fighters. But the thing is, if these AI got onto my tail and started hitting me, then I would have some real problems, so it would be time to take them out. But as you can see, the British can't do anything against my plane. They can't hit me. I mean, if it's all down to me right now. A lot of times in realistic battles, it's kind of down to if you make a mistake, you're done. But a lot of the times, it's actually down to you're waiting for the enemy to make a mistake and then you can capitalize. In the F4U, even if the enemy doesn't make a mistake, as long as you make no mistakes and fly it properly, you will never get hit. You will never even get hurt. Now, I can hit this guy on the runway. The bow fighter has overextended, so that's his fault, and he's basically left his comrade away from him, so I'm able to easily go after this guy. And this just shows some more strengths of the F4U. Unfortunately, I didn't get any hits there, but as you can see, I can get in and get out without even that bow fighter having a sniff. He has 2 engines, but he doesn't have enough power. But all the time there is, I believe, either a Beaufort or a Blenheim attacking ground targets, and unfortunately I've just lost the video, so I need to get it back. That'll do. It's kind of around that area. But yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do in the Corsair. You can basically fly it in any way as long as you have the speed. Speed is key, energy is key. This is an energy fighter, it's a boom and zoom fighter. It's get altitude, get down, hit the enemy, get out. And this guy's trying to hit me. He never will. I mean, I'm still getting away from him. The bow fighter was kind of nearly able to get there, but all I have to do instead of climbing is just go straight and then get out of there. He can't catch me. But anyway, back to the article. When first tested in 1940, the V-166B exceeded 400 miles per hour and became the first American fighter to reach such speeds. First flight was recorded May 29, 1940. Changes were soon ordered. New armament was the call, and this forced a relocation of wing fuel tanks to the fuselage. In turn, the setback the cockpit some 3 feet from the nose, which generated all sorts of dangers for the pilot. In 1941, Vought was handed a serial production contract for 584 examples of the F4U-1 by the USN. However, the initial production quality airframe did not go airborne until June 25, 1942. Carrier trials began in September, and the aircraft was officially introduced into service on December the 28th at a critical point in the Allied push to victory. So there we go. I mean, the -1A is basically a 1942 plane. And in the matchmaking, it comes up against 1942 planes, basically, which is good. And as you can see, this guy can do whatever he wants. I have the energy advantage and the speed. He basically can't really do anything to me, which is always nice, especially when you're fighting stuff like this. And his friend is far away enough to not do anything silly and come on my tail. But basically, I can turn at the same rate as this guy. He can maybe just outturn me a little bit, so it's time to get away, because the Spitfire is coming in. As I said, all of this is basically how to fly the fighter. Don't try and engage in close combat. Always try and use stuff to your advantage. There's no point in doing silly things. I mean, I hardly ever use combat flaps on this thing, because I never get into situations where I need to. When you're turning in this thing, you really shouldn't. I maybe use combat flaps if you go into a shallow dive after somebody, and you can't get that roll rate up at high speeds, and you can't get up to that high speeds. But anyway, let's get back to this. The inherent dangers of landing such a high-performance aircraft on a moving carrier deck prompted the US Navy to delay shipboard use of the F4U. Instead, the aircraft was to begin operations as a land-based fighter with US Marine Air Group VMF-124 from land bases during February 1943 over Bougainville. I hope I said that right. In practice, the F4U made short work of the marauding Mitsubishi A6M Zero fighters. Well, there you go. The pride of the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service, as Zeros provided poorly protected, lacking armor along critical components and self-sealing fuel tanks. Additionally, American fighter aircraft were much improved over the pre-war models available in the initial Japanese assault throughout the Pacific. Improved training and a better stock of seasoned pilots, coupled to a fast and powerful fighter, eventually helped to turn the tide of the Pacific War over time. Indeed, the F4U proved itself the first Allied fighter to be able to counter the threat of the A6M0 in the war. She could outturn and outdive most any enemy when called upon. And as we know, that is basically simulated in this game. I mean, I can't really outturn stuff, but at high speeds in a dive I can, which is the main thing. As you can see, I'm basically just taking out these guys so they don't have a go at me. And because my speed is decent, the ships are going to really struggle hitting me. So I can easily go over them if I feel like it. And once again, thanks to the Kitty Hawk pilot to basically just sticking with me and egging me on a bit. It's always nice when you're on your own against basically a whole enemy team. But as you can see, the enemy team just can't hit me. They can't do anything. They are really struggling, and I can even do this. Like in bow fighters, where I use the torpedo to go after ships, I can't do this. I get hit. But in the Corsair, I can easily do it. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it may be down to probability, but it's amazing I can do stuff like that. But anyway, back to the article. In the following months, the US Marines took on even greater stocks of the new aircraft. Such was their impression of the Mount. Its versatility allowed it to be utilized to great effect as a ground attack fighter, outfitted with 8 5-inch aerial rockets, or up to 4,000 pounds of stores. Jettisonable fuel tanks served to increase overall combat ranges and bring the fight to the enemy wherever they would be found. Japanese army forces grew so accustomed to Corsair strikes and their accompanying dive sound that they nicknamed the American aircraft the Whistling Death. This sound was attributed to the rush of air at the cool events when in a dive. That's quite amazing to me, like the fact how versatile this thing is. I mean, in-game I would only use it as a fighter, but how in real life it was so versatile, kind of like the Thunderbolt I suppose in a way. But obviously this thing was greater, and here is a textbook hammerhead, as you can see. Zoom up, basically lose all of your speed. I know I have more energy than the Spitfire, and he can basically do nothing to me. I'm also trying to get it so my ships hit him, because I know I can't outturn this guy. I know I can't really do anything, so it's basically stay around my own naval ships and hope this guy gets hit, because the thing is, that Spitfire, I can do this all day, until I run out of fuel, of course. But basically, that Spitfire is going a lot slower than me, and I can outclimb it, I can outdive it, but I can't outturn it, so I can't engage it in a one-on-one fight. So the best way to do it is pull stuff like hammerheads, try and get on his tail, but unfortunately he can just turn. But the thing is, I'm basically hoping that the AI ships can take out that Spitfire, otherwise I'm going to struggle. But still, I mean, I'm doing pretty well. The Spitfire is struggling now. And the last part of the article, I will put this article in the description, by the way, if any of you want to do it. TheMilitaryFactory.com is a really, really good website, which has a lot of history on it and stuff like that. But anyway, Corsair pilots managed over 500 air kills by the end of 1943 and totaled some 2,140 enemy aircraft by the end of the war in August of 1945. The highest scoring ace of the US Marine Corps alone became Major Gregory Pappy Boyington, who managed 28 total enemy kills. All of these totals were made possible by the 64,000 sorties recorded by F4U airmen in the whole of the war. Allied pilots eventually earned an astounding kill ratio of 11 to 1. So basically, every Corsair that was shot down, 11 Japanese planes, probably Zeros, were shot down. Which just shows, I mean, by the end of the war between America and Japan, obviously the nuclear bombs kind of finished it off, but a big turning factor in the war is that the Japanese lost a lot of their veteran pilots, kind of like with the Germans at the end of 1945. Well, at the end of the war in 1945, I should say. Basically, a lot of their veterans had died, and they weren't able to get as good experienced pilots in the air, and that basically happened to the Japanese, mainly down to the Corsair. Like, the Corsair turned the battle around in the air in the Pacific, and it definitely should get a lot of credit for stuff like that. But anyway, the Spitfire was downed by these ships, so I didn't have to worry about that, and all this game, it's been relaxing. Like, it's a very easy plane to fly in arcade and realistic. So that's why I think it's a good beginner to boom and zoom tactics. I mean, even like something like the Wildcat would be good at stuff like that. But you know, I think this plane is really good at it. The only problem is, I think all of their team are dead except the bomber. But unfortunately, I didn't think the Beaufighter made it back. It said that he crashed, so I didn't think he crashed on the airfield. I took out one of his engines, and I thought that would have just ended him. But as we will see, unfortunately, it isn't the case. But right now I'm thinking, okay, there's only a bomber left. I've basically taken out everybody else. It's time to land, refuel, re-ammo, resupply, and get back up in the air. Because the thing is, I still have ammo left after all of the shots, after all the people I've damaged or killed. I still have ammo, which is great and realistic. There's a lot of times, like, the big problem I have with the Aerocobra and the even the Kitty Hawk to some points, and the King Cobra, is that you really have to save ammo. You can only really shoot when you need to, and when you have a clear shot, and when the enemy is basically dead in your sight. With the Corsair, you can use your ammo to basically kind of scare the enemy into doing silly maneuvers, and things like that. But I suppose a lot of pilots don't want to do that, but that's the way I see it. But anyway, we're about to land. I think it's been a successful battle so far. I mean, I basically downed nearly the whole enemy team by myself, but thank you once again to that Kitty Hawk for helping me, at least at the start, and keeping with me. Because I think this shows that a Corsair can change a battle. It can basically win you a battle. I mean, so many aircraft have been shot down by myself, and mainly because of the way I've been flying, and the enemy haven't been able to shoot me. I can't even imagine having a squad of 3 or even 5 of these in a battle. You just never would win against them. You would always lose. And, like, I can't even imagine facing the Japanese in these things. It would be absolutely terrible for the Japanese. They would never, ever win. But I don't think a lot of people have realised how good this Corsair is right now. And, you know, this video is to kind of show that this Corsair is good. It's very, and unfortunately there's the Beaufighter. So I try and gun my engine and get up into the air, but unfortunately he's able to take me out. So that was kind of a miscalculation, but it did say he crashed. But well done to that Beaufighter for sticking to attack me, I suppose. And I said GG because it was a good game. I mean, I think it showed the Corsair in its true light, how you can fly it. And this thing is a hidden gem right now. So if you really want to have fun in War Thunder, like not just grinding planes and doing silly stuff like that, but playing a very fun fighter, which will always get good results as long as you fly it right, then fly this. I mean, you'll get less people having a go at you than if you fly the P-38G right now. And you'll also get better matchmaking, and you'll get a plane which basically performs exactly the same as the P-38, except that it doesn't have that cannon. And I am here to tell you, you do not need that cannon. That cannon is good, but it is not a necessity. And I think flying the Corsair you will realise that. And flying anything with only machine guns, you will realise that. But anyway, as you can see, I did really well in this match. And this was the first match of the day, once again, kind of like the arcade battles. But anyway, let's get on to the final verdict. And so in the final verdict, I'll be looking at what I believe is the strengths and weaknesses of this wonderful aircraft. And so on to the strengths. As long as you boom and zoom, maneuverability of this aircraft is excellent. It is amazing how well this thing rolls at high speeds. So as long as you keep up your energy and keep up your speed, you'll still be able to outturn those aircraft which are supposedly better at turning than you. It is diverse because of its climb rate and energy retention. This is mainly in arcade I'm talking about, where you're able to go after fighters, you're able to go after bombers. There isn't really anything you can't do in the realm of dogfighting, which is always nice. It has easily enough firepower to take apart anything you are up against. Even though a lot of people love their high caliber guns, love their 37, 45mm, I think 650 cals is easily enough to take out anything, especially fighters. There is nothing from other nations around this tier which can compete with it, as long as you energy fight. Well, there you go. I mean, surely that is a recommendation that cannot be beaten. I don't think anything can even compete with this at all, as long as you use it correctly. The plane is a great way for people to learn and understand how to boom and zoom, so it can be used in later American planes. What I mean by this is before you unlock your Mustangs, your P-38Gs, stuff like that, you can use this plane, or even the Wildcat, to learn how to boom and zoom, and how to retain energy while fighting, which is always nice when you get up to higher tiers, where a lot of players are very skilled. And on to the weaknesses. It struggles at low speeds, and you need to keep your energy high. This is a problem if you like turn fighting, or if you like anything like that. If you get under maybe 250, 300 kilometers an hour, you are going to struggle in this plane. But as long as you fly correctly, you shouldn't have to. Landing on carriers is always tough in planes like this. For some reason, I really struggle with landing with these types of planes, especially on realistic, when all you have naval ships, such as landing carriers, to land on, but that just might be me. Without high caliber guns, it is hard to one-shot or snipe people. I know there's a lot of people out there who really enjoy their big guns, and because this doesn't really have any, people might be put off by it. You will lose in turn fights, so it may not suit all types of players. This is what I'm talking about from before, where if you are really used to Spitfires, and you crack out this thing, the Corsair, then you may have to adapt your playstyle to the plane instead of the plane adapting to yours. There are a lot of fighters around this BR for the Americans, so you might overlook this plane. At 3.0, you have a ton of stuff. The Kitty Hawk, the Aerocobra, the P-38G, the Hellcat, everything like that. So, a lot of people are gravitating towards like the P-38G right now, but I'm saying don't. Make sure you fly this thing, and make sure you have fun in it. It is a wonderful aircraft, and I would say, all of you, try it out, give it a go. It is absolutely amazing, and now there are 2 aircraft for the F4U-1A. You will have so much fun in them. But anyway, thank you for watching, and have a great day.